What's up, guys? Welcome to the one and only meeting of the One Sitting Classic Book Club. I'm your host, Atticus Fina, and today we will be reading two classics of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. These are two classics that I never got around to reading. I was never assigned them in school somehow. But this one's only 100 pages, and this one is only 200 pages, so I think I can knock these two out in one day. And in fact, I might go so far as to say I could knock them out in one sitting. Now, this sitting won't just be me sitting here in one spot forever, because I do have to let my dogs out every now and again. But for the most part, this is just one interrupted reading session. I'm going to get the entire scope of both of these books in one sitting, which is something I've never really done with a book before, except The Old Man and the Sea by... who wrote that? Was that Mark Twain? It was either Mark Twain or the other guy. That one was also like 100 pages, so I think I can get this one down pretty fast. The Great Gatsby is going to be the hard one. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews of this. My parents in particular did not enjoy it, but Taylor Swift certainly does. I am kind of a sucker for pretentious media and just pretending to be fancy, even though you're not. So I feel like this might be right up my alley, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't actually know any summaries or any plot points of either of these books. I have somehow avoided that during my whole life, so I'm going into these blind, and I'll let you know along the way as I'm reading what I'm thinking about each of these books. I guess without further ado, let's get reading. I don't think I mentioned it specifically, but I'm starting with Of Mice and Men. Okay, let's go. So I'm officially halfway done with Of Mice and Men already, which is crazy because I've only been reading for like an hour and 15 minutes. So some themes I'm getting here: racism, sexism, ableism, just a lot of oppression going on all around. People being really mean to other people for things that they cannot help. Also, the nature of kindness is being discussed a lot in this book, and whether you can actually do something selflessly or if every good action comes from a selfish place. And Steinbeck seems to be arguing that yes, every good action does come from a selfish place. So the message is a little sad here so far, and I fear that it's only going to get sadder. I do have a feeling that something very bad is going to happen. I don't know if I'm ever really going to figure out George's actual motivations here, because it seems that maybe he's just keeping Lenny around because he's a good worker, but also it's cool though, because this whole book is like, you can't do anything out of the goodness of your own heart. But then George is out here saying how much he hates how much Lenny gets in trouble, but yet he keeps him around, and it seems like it's just because he's been with him his whole life and he feels some sort of obligation to keep him safe. It's not necessarily a selfish reason. He is at least slightly selflessly continuing to bring Lenny with him and take care of him, even if he is very mean to him. Also, every problem with all of the characters in this book can be kind of explained by the fact that they have been so oppressed their whole lives. They've been made to just be workers traveling around to different ranches, and that's like their only path in life. They have no other option. They've been made to feel that way. George, in fact, is like, if I were even a little bit smarter, I'd have my own place, I'd be alone, maybe I'd have a romantic partner, and it wouldn't be Lenny. Like a lot of classics, this is just such a man book. Like The Old Man and the Sea, that was like #1 man book. It's just one man, one fish, man wins. It costs him everything. He is so stubborn. This book is just a bunch of men working on a ranch, killing puppies. That's pretty ruthless. It is very good at showing what people go through when they are put into situations where they feel helpless. And a lot of these people don't even seem like they feel helpless anymore. It's more like they've just accepted that this is where they belong, and so they're going to continue on this way. But I can't tell how they're supposed to be talking, because at the beginning of the book I had them with southern accents, and then now they all sound like they got Jersey accents. Neither of them really makes sense, because this is California we're talking about. I'm going to stick with the Jersey accent, I think, and I'll let you know my thoughts when I actually finish this whole book. Okay, bye. This is me, directly after I finished reading. There were real tears. The ending of this book was so sad. So, those first 50 pages that I read, that was like right before it really got good. A theme I didn't mention earlier was hope. The hope aspect really came in the last half too. They'd mentioned briefly like their dreams of having their own ranch. And George's kindness really shined through when he was telling Lenny all about the ranch. He was like, Sure, I can tell you this. Sure, I can tell you that, because Lenny just kept asking so many questions, but he was so patient with him, and that was really sweet. They're all so oppressed in this world. But then, there's a whole other level of it. There is only one black worker in this entire place, and he has to live alone in the barn. There's this whole scene where Lenny goes in there. They're starting to talk, and then Candy, the old man, comes in, and everything's great. And then the wife of the son of the ranch owner comes in and is just straight up evil. And it's really interesting because she goes on this whole tangent later about how oppressed she is. And then she goes and she finds a person from a different oppressed group, and she uses that to her advantage. It's a really good way of showing how people in power can turn people without that against each other so easily, by highlighting these arbitrary differences between them, forcing them to hate each other. But yeah, that's just a devastating message. I don't want to spoil anything. There's something that Candy, the old man, says that was really, really sad about his dog. I figured that line would come back to bite later, and it did. I really want to talk about the ending, because it was so powerfully sad, but I will not spoil it. But if you haven't read this book, read this book. It is really moving, especially for how short it is. This copy is 105 pages, and it got me so attached to the characters that I was actually crying. And I do not cry very often at books. Movies, sure. In books, it doesn't usually happen to me, but this one got me. This one got me. And 5 stars, by the way. 5-star read for me, 100%. I'm gonna go get dinner, and then I will be back, hopefully recovered enough to finally read The Great Gatsby. But you can't guess what I just ate. Chicken nuggets. There's only one right way to read The Great Gatsby, and it's like this. So, if you'll excuse me. Okay, I have officially reached 100 pages of The Great Gatsby, which is well over halfway. So far, this does not hold a candle, or should I say a dim green light across the bay, to Of Mice and Men. There's just a crazy juxtaposition going from all of these people trying to survive, and then going to this one, which is just a bunch of extremely privileged people. It mentions the privilege briefly, right away in the first chapter, and then it kind of just forgets about it. This is honestly not as cool as I was expecting it to be. I didn't really expect it to be some sort of master artwork like Of Mice and Men was, but I also expected it to be at least like fun and a good time. But so far it's just pretty boring. I don't really like any of the characters. I liked Gatsby when he was first introduced, but then he just kind of started to be selfish and annoying. He did not retain his charm. So yeah, so far I'm not too impressed with this book. I was really hoping for more of the actual party scene and some cool conversations. Hopefully it turns around in the second half of this book, but I'm not too sure it will. Well, we'll see if the next 80 pages can make up for the first 100. See you on the other side. So it's just past 1 a.m. and I finally finished The Great Gatsby, and it did not get better in the second half. In fact, I would say it got worse. I guess a lot of things happened, but it still felt extremely boring. I understand that this is a short book, but I feel that it could have been way shorter and accomplished the same things and probably done it way better. I honestly think that all of this could have fit in like half the pages. It's not the most poetic thing I've ever heard. There are a couple cool passages, but overall, I was really hoping for a lot of fancy rich people dialogue. That didn't really happen. It was a lot of just drama between them, people just being kind of angry at each other and not in a fun, fancy way. This could have been a lot shorter, and it would have been a lot better if it were a lot shorter somehow. Maybe it's just because I'm trying to read this in one sitting and it's 1 a.m., but I feel like Gatsby is not that great. None of these characters are that entertaining to read about, unfortunately. Maybe it's also bad that I read this directly after Of Mice and Men, which was such a great book. This one just kind of sucks in comparison. So I think I'm going to have to give this one 2 stars. I feel like it doesn't say much about anything, really. It's not a great critique of rich people or, the system. It's kind of a useless book because it's not that entertaining and it doesn't tell you much about anything. The fun part was dressing up like this, but I feel like there could be books that really accentuate the fanciness and partiness of it all way better than this book. I kind of want to watch the movie now to see if it's any better, because I imagine it is a lot better. Anyway, that concludes the one and only meeting forever of the One Sitting Classics Book Club. I hope you enjoyed. If you like seeing people, especially me, reading for long periods of time, I highly suggest checking out my 24-hour reading challenge video where I try to read for 24 hours during the busiest college schedule I've ever seen. Well, I need to go to bed, and I'm probably going to sleep in this suit, but bye.